Welcome back to the starters. Warriors, as I said, moving on to the NBA Finals, take on the Cavs. But let's talk a little bit about the Rockets and where they go from here and whether or not they even overachieve this season. Though we got to start specifically with Game 5 and the disappointing game in the biggest game, really, of the season for them, trying to stay alive for James Harden. Didn't get to cook in there in Game 5.
He cooked some turnovers, I guess. I mean, it was just so strange to see the variety of turnovers.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you just had your sort of Butterfinger type turnovers,
Yep.
you had your transition type turnovers, expecting foul type turnovers. It was just the entire sort of array of a bad game all put into one. And it's just so strange after such an exciting series and year from James Harden for it to end like that. It's going to be such a bad taste in his mouth for this summer.
Yeah, way back when I said he had one of the best handles in the league, and last night he could barely keep the ball to himself. There were so many unforced errors. It was unreal. It makes you almost believe the Little B curse is real. He was there, and James Harden sets the playoff record for turnovers in the same game. Probably not a coincidence.
It's all Little B.
It was going to be so hard for him to back up that performance in Game 4. But for James Harden, you just wonder if they got that win, and part of it was like, you know, at least we didn't get swept and they went into that game. Although it was pretty close towards the end. They still were in it, but maybe he just wasn't in the same space as he was for Game 4.
Yeah, weird playoffs when you look back at it for the Rockets. They had 6 wins by 10-plus points. They also had 6 losses by 10-plus points. You know, they had a great winning streak there in the Western semis when they came back to beat the Clips, and then, of course, the losing streak there in the finals before taking Game 4 and then ultimately losing in Game 5. I think a pretty good season, though, for the Rockets. They went 56-26. They finished second in the West. They had the signing of Josh Smith, which was, you know, a little surprising at the time. You wondered how that was going to work. Well, it worked out well for them. He had some great moments in the playoffs. James Harden finishing second in the MVP vote, and they won their division for the first time in a long time. Did the Rockets, with all of the injuries that came into play with Dwight, and Beverly, and Demo, and Terrence Jones, did this team overachieve in your eyes this season?
I think they did. Yeah, to get into that second seed, which they were only in because of a division tiebreaker in the end. So, yeah, they probably wouldn't have got that 2 seed if they didn't have that. At the same time, they came together so nicely. It was exceptional to watch. When we started the season, everybody thought, oh, they've lost talent. They've lost Jeremy Lin and Omer Asik and Chandler Parsons. But the way they put together this lineup and Trevor Ariza and Patrick Beverly around these main stars and to fight through all these injuries as we're seeing here, they're the second most missed games. Of course, they overachieved, yeah, and it's the type of basketball they play. They sort of instill confidence in their guys, like a Josh Smith can step up to the three-point line after bringing the ball up the backcourt and bury a three. I mean, where did that come from?
You know, well, he's always done that.
He's always done it. It just didn't really go in. The entire team just felt like a real team this season, and it was. I don't know how it came together, but a lot of kudos to Kevin McHale.
Oh, absolutely. What do you think about Dwight Howard's season? Again, he missed a good chunk of time, half the amount of time there in the regular season. He turned it on in the playoffs. I thought dominating that Game 5, the first quarter, first half to some extent.
Sure.
In the conference finals there against the Warriors. He had his moments again in the playoffs, and he did pretty well last year.
That's the thing. I think we should only really worry about what he did in the playoffs because that was when he was pretty much as healthy as he was all season, and he was back to being pretty dominant Dwight. And the Rockets have to be excited that if they get him healthy and he's fresh all season next season, that the Rockets should be in a more or less that same position because he can be so dominant. He just
defensively. He can be dominant defensively now, but he seems to have lost that step offensively. That explosiveness, that athleticism.
He also sacrificed a lot in the playoffs and kind of was content to just be a role guy for the most part. He still got his post touches, and the touch there wasn't the prettiest to see, flicking up his little left-handers for no reason. But I don't know, the way he was just able to kind of say, I don't need a ton of post-ups, I'll be the role guy. Who knows if he can do that for a whole season? But doing it in the playoffs in the biggest stage of the season, I thought was pretty impressive and pretty nice of Dwight.
Yeah, I think simply taking on that role, and he seemed the angriest during the post-game press conferences because he took on a role where he doesn't get the post touches, and he can be effective offensively, I think, simply by rolling to the hoop and stopping the post-ups. I mean, that is where he is extremely effective. He can be an all-NBA center next year. I think you're just extremely happy. You saw that, Dwight, in the playoffs. You have to be amped if you're a Houston fan or in the front office.
Well, let's look ahead to their summer here. There are some questions with this squad. Dwight, we know, is going to be there. James Harden's going to be there. But there are some unrestricted guys in Josh Smith and Jason Terry. A big key question, Patrick Beverly, restricted free agent. And Corey Brewer, he's got a player option, but according to Zach Lowe on Grantland, Brewer actually agreed to decline a player option for this 15-16 as a condition of his mid-season trade to the Rockets. That's the other thing. This team's sort of thrown together at certain points through the season. Morey doing a great job to try and put talent around Harden and around Dwight Howard and did a great job. So, you know, you start with this. Is this going to be a similar looking team, the Rockets, next season?
I definitely think Josh Smith will be back because I think he found a role that probably suits him and works for him. It took a little bit of adjustment there, but once he got comfortable and once he felt like he was a really important part of their offense, he responded. I mean, he played really, really well.
Yeah,
so,
you have to think maybe Houston is the best scenario for him, playing next to his best friend. It definitely seemed to help, and his playmaking was huge in the playoffs. They need a secondary playmaker, no doubt.
I am curious to see if Morey, like he tried to do last year, where he was going after another star guy like a Chris Bosh, and he's done that.
We thought he was there. We thought Chris Bosh was there.
That's right. I wonder if Morey tries to do this again with possibly a Kevin Love situation there, maybe a LaMarcus Aldridge, to really go aggressive and to get another score. Because I think we saw, because I don't have as much faith in Dwight Howard as you guys do on the offensive end. Harden needs some help.
Yeah.
He needs some help in the scoring department, of course, that he can actually rest a little bit and doesn't have to do everything, especially if you go with Beverly as your point guard, which is key. To have another guy to be able to give you 15 to 20 points a night. He desperately needs it.
I wonder if people want to play next to James Harden, though. A big-time free agent maybe won't want to take a secondary role. The way he handles the ball, he's touching the ball every single time.
He passes the ball. He's
he
their
the
point
ball.
guard.
He drops it off, no doubt about it, but is the James Harden show.
The great thing about the system there is that everybody sort of looks good in it. Now that they have a lot of options to trade or somehow workouts for a big guy.